Hi, everyone. My name is Bonnie Garcia Glockner. I'm the Assistant Director for the Office of National Fellowships. I have really the rest of my office here with me. So you've got, well, I'll let you guys introduce yourselves.
It's Jesse. I'm off camera, but glad y'all are here.
Hi, everyone. It is Sam here. For those who have not yet met me, my pronouns are he, they. I'm the new program coordinator at the Office of National Fellowships.
Thank you. Is Keith here? Wasn't sure if he was gonna pop on or not.
I think he failed.
That's fine. That's fine. He wasn't feeling it, so. So hopefully if you're here, you've been working with our office or the Office of Graduate Fellowships and Awards. Should come as no surprise to you that we are very, very close to the campus deadlines for Fulbright. So this presentation is really to go over that checklist of things that need to be done before you get to the campus deadline, and then also giving you some ideas of what the next several weeks after that are going to look like, so that everyone is as prepared as possible. I do want to reiterate again, because I know this has been coming up in some of my meetings, right? We're having that campus deadline. Obviously, we want you to have a polished application at the campus deadline, but the reality is that you're then going to have 3 more people with 3 sets of eyes, right? Not each, that's 3 new sets of eyes. They don't each have 3 sets of eyes. That would be weird. So 3 sets of eyes are going to be looking at your application as well. So you are going to have plenty of time between that feedback session and the national deadline to incorporate some of those edits. As many of you are probably aware just from going through this process, a lot can happen with a month. So just keep that in mind. Sometimes I think folks get a little overwhelmed because you have been working on this for a very long time. For many of you, you've been working on this for months, right? And so we're getting so close to that final deadline. So for today, let's talk about our overview real fast. We do have some of those final reminders. Hopefully you've also been getting those off of Canvas or through the Fulbright portal. I'm trying to send through both just in case we're missing people. We have our campus deadlines, which we'll go through. We'll talk a little bit about the interview, which we're calling really feedback sessions. Really, they're supposed to be conversations about your application, polishing that proposal and your personal statement, and then what the coming weeks are going to look like, as well as any questions. But this is very informal. Really, the people that are here, presumably, I didn't see the list, but you're all people that are applying this cycle. So if you do have questions as we're going, feel free to unmute yourself, put it in the chat, do whatever you need to do, and we'll get that answered right away. Okay, cool. So some final reminders. If your advisors have not drilled this into your head at this point, there is essay formatting that must be done for your statement of grant purpose and your personal statement. If this is not completed the way it is, this isn't just like the Office of National Fellowships and AGFA being like super strict about this. Fulbright will just not look at your application if it's not formatted the way that they want. So please make sure that you are already, if you haven't started yet, putting those headers in the correct place with the correct information. For the most part, that's going to be statement of grant purpose in that top line. Next line will be your name, the country you're applying to, not the USA, and your field of study. And then if you are doing a study research award, that 3rd line is going to be the project title as it is on your program information page in the portal. Okay, so this is a really important standard formatting for them. Single spaced, 12-point font, Times New Roman, 1-inch margins. Those first few lines are literally the first few lines. So there should be nothing in the header and footer region of your document. So other things to keep in mind, you don't need spaces between your paragraphs, right? You don't need spaces in between the header and the start of your document. So if you start noticing, oh no, I'm going on to page 2 or I'm going on to page 3, I don't have space to do that. Start looking for some of those easy ways to get some of those lines back. The last thing I'll mention here too is that on that statement of grant purpose, if you're doing study research, that 2nd page is going to need a header as well, but it can be just as easy as last name, grant purpose, page 2. That's it. So again, if you're short on space, make sure you're looking for that. If you are an ETA applicant, you're just gonna have that one page anyway, so you shouldn't have too much of an issue. We do have some tips for success on the side here as well. So obviously, I mean, I hope this is obvious. You should not be waiting until the campus deadline to start that online application. Please just don't. Your recommenders can't even get the links to submit anything for you until you enter their information into the portal. So this is really, really imperative that you are, if you haven't yet, that you're starting like now. Like pull it up right now. You can stop listening to me to pull it up and do it right now, okay? You'll get a copy of this recording, so don't worry about that. This is a very, I think sometimes people take this part for granted because they're like, oh, well, I really need to focus on my essays. Well, if you don't have a portal or an online application to submit them to, it's not going to mean a whole hell of a lot. So please make sure that you're getting this in order and giving your recommenders and language evaluators plenty of time to get those into your application. As far as essay formatting for your personal statement, so 1-page doc for both ETA applicants and the study research. Again, 12-point font, Times New Roman, 1-inch margins, don't need space between paragraphs. This time, personal statement in that first line, your name, your country, your field of study. If you're an ETA, that field of study is just going to be English Teaching Assistant Program. No real big things to point out here. It should be pretty standard. Hopefully you're already putting your documents in with these headers in place, but if not, you're probably the next meeting you have with your advisor, that might be something that comes up in discussion. So just get it on there now. Important tip number 2, that application portal does not include a spell checker. So if you are concerned about spelling and grammar and all that jazz, you should be writing everything in a Google Doc or a Word form or however you want to do that, that affords you some sort of spell check, and then copying and pasting that into your application. Okay. Whew, our campus deadlines. So this is very important this year. Fulbright has changed their system ever so slightly. So if you applied last year or you have friends that previously applied, we talked about submitting at that campus deadline. Do not do that. Don't. I'm going to say it again. Do not submit. Fulbright has made it very clear on their website for applicants and also to advisors, because every single email that I get from them for the past 3 months has been, do not let your students submit because there is no take backsies. Whatever you submit is how it's going to be for the national deadline. They will not unsubmit for you. So what they have instead is a lock. So make sure that you lock your application, usually right before you come into the campus deadline check-in or just while you're sort of there with us. But we do need it to be locked so we can download your application packet. So we give that to the faculty and staff committee. So all of those application materials are due at the campus deadline in a locked application. That includes your essays, that includes your short responses, your recommendations, letters of affiliation, language evaluations, all of those things. It should be as if something were to happen and you suddenly could not do anything on your application for all of August and September, and now you've just got to submit what you have. Right? I hope that makes super clear what's happening here. Because the more complete your application is, when you meet with the faculty and staff committee, the more that they can focus on the content of your application and not start needling you about like, well, where's your letter for this? Why isn't this part filled out? Why don't you have anything in this section about your awards? Yada, 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 right? So don't give them that space to talk about those things so that they can focus wholly on the content of your application. Okay? That ETA application check-in window is going to be on Wednesday, August 28th. It's going to run from 9 a.m. until 3 p.m. EST. And then the academic creative grant application window is the next day. So Thursday, August 29th between 9 a.m. and 3 p.m. EST. You are welcome to come in person. I will certainly be here. Just sit in my office. You're welcome to come in for that. But there will be Zoom windows as well. So you're welcome to drop in, myself, Jesse, probably Sam, Keith, whoever is sort of available will be helping us with the check-in process. As long as all of those bits of your application are in and you have a full and complete application at check-in, you will be able to register for a campus feedback session. If something is missing, you will still be able to do the check-in part, but you're not going to be able to sign up for an interview right away. To give you an idea, obviously, this is what we're looking at on our end. So we have a form that we fill out as you come in, where we're checking off to make sure that all of these parts of your application are complete. Even if a letter or a form hasn't been entered by one of your recommenders, we'll still make note of who we're missing it from, and then we would appreciate it if you could let us know if like it comes in before your interview, so that we can try to get that attached to the application that goes to your faculty and staff committee. You're not going to know who's on that faculty staff committee until you are in the room that day. We have over 40 members around there of different people who have themselves been on Fulbrights, who have extensive knowledge in a particular region of the world, or who have extensive like teaching experience and teaching experience abroad. So it really is a mixed bag of who's going to be on your committee. They really enjoy what they're doing though, and they will happily read 10 essays, even if they're only going to be able to, write a campus committee evaluation form for 2 of you. So you are going to be meeting with a very engaged group of individuals that want to see your application be the best that it can be. And that starts by having a complete application for them to look at. So, like I mentioned, 9 to 3 on the campus deadline day for your award type, locked applications. You can come to my office, you can come via Zoom. Our feedback sessions will be held September 5th, 6th, 9th, 10th, and 11th. So that's a Thursday, Friday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. That schedule is still pending because we need to see exactly how many people are going to be applying. But when you come in for the check-in, you're going to go through that checklist with the advisor, and then they'll show you the slots that are available for your award type. There's really no flexibility with that as far as availability, because we are trying to coordinate with 40 other individuals. So keep in mind that the sooner that you are in to see us on your check-in day, the sooner that you have all of those materials in, the better slot you're going to get. Like I mentioned, if you don't have everything, you're still going to want to come in for the check-in, but after 3 p.m. that day, I'm going to send out an email that has all of the remaining slots for that award type, and it's first come, first serve on who gets what slot. Okay, does that make sense? Anything you guys want to add? Okay, yeah, and so like I said, we're going to download that whole packet afterwards so that it can get to the campus committee. Okay, so these feedback sessions, like I mentioned, FSU faculty and staff in various departments, different colleges all over the university, just a really good group of people that want to see more and more students get selected for Fulbright so they can study and do research and teach overseas. So you'll find that they, like I said, are very engaged. This is a panel feedback session, so you'll have three of them in the Zoom room with you. They'll ask you a few questions about your application, but they also might just ask you questions about, how you feel about living abroad. What do you know about the country that you're going to, right? This is a time for them to evaluate not just the content that you presented them with, but what are your capabilities abroad? How are you going to handle being in that new environment? You can actually see the form that one of them will write. So that's all on Fulbright's website. You have access to that now. But if you do want to prepare ahead of time, through the Career Center, they have the big interview program. And if you go into that interface, you can see a set of sample, created questions. And there's a whole sorry, Jesse is being super distracting. There's a whole set that's tailored to the Fulbright experience. So it's asking about the country, what motivated you to go into teaching? Why is your research of important import to your field? Things like that. Let's see. Other things that you want to be prepared for as far as the feedback session. They're going to last about 20 to 25 minutes. I would say usually more on the 20-minute side. Because we do want to have time for them to ask you questions, but also for you to have a dialogue with them. So it shouldn't just be like a, sort of you sitting there being talked to. We hope that this turns into more of a conversation. Please make sure that you're coming in and that your lighting all works, that you've got a good internet connection, that you're confident about those materials, right? You will have gone over your application so many times before this moment. But it doesn't hurt to just make sure you're aware of all of the bits and bobs that make up not just the written materials you've been working on, but all of the biographical information you've been putting in there as well. I don't think I mentioned on here, but they are going to be recorded. So after the presentation, I'm going to talk about it here. Yes. So for these tips for success, right? Your feedback session will be recorded and then you'll be sent a recording. So we do encourage you to take notes or to jot things down if something comes up, but just keep in mind that you will receive a recording so you don't have to be like, aggressively taking notes during the middle of this conversation, right? You'll have a chance to look at that afterwards. Yeah, this is what I just said. Sorry, I'm getting a little ahead of myself here. In fact, I think the next one is just I'll show you these real fast. So these are the forms that the committee will be filling out. So every individual that meets with the faculty committee will have a campus committee evaluation form completed for them by one of the people that is on your panel. So you can see that the questions that they're asking are largely getting at how well you're going to do abroad. So in what ways will the characteristics and personal attributes of the applicant enable them to be a positive representative of the United States in the Fulbright program in their host community? Describe the applicant's knowledge of the host country in ways the applicant has learned or is learning about the host country or region's culture, society, current events, and or history. So you can see some of this stuff is definitely stuff that's going to be in your application material, but some of it is just on that dialogue of when you talk to another person, sort of getting the vibe of who they are and their feelings about certain topics. So we do want that to come out, and your review panel will also have copies of this. So they know that the types of questions they're asking are sort of going towards, are they going to be able to fill this out with confidence after talking with you? I'll go back quickly, sample questions, but like I said, you can also check out that big interview set of questions. Expect to be asked about summary of your project. You do want to have that elevator sort of pitch response down pretty well. Current events that may be happening. So obviously, regions of the world, if they are where you're going, if they're impacted in some way, which what region of the world isn't right now, right? But you should know specifics about where you're going and how that might impact either your research or maybe the population of students that you would be working with in a classroom. How does this help your future goals, right? Why did you choose this particular country? Oftentimes those things are hand in hand. What challenges do you anticipate, right? It's not all going to be sunshine and roses. So what things do you think you might come up against, and have you thought about how you would overcome them, right? And obviously, a big part of the Fulbright program is being that citizen ambassador. So how do you benefit from this interaction, and how does the host country benefit having you in it? Okay. All right. Yes.
Go back a couple slides. Transcripts, unofficial. They don't need to download official.
Yes. Yeah.
Just
okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Yes. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So as far as your application goes, I know that it does say transcripts on there. They can be unofficial until you are selected. So if you down the road receive the Fulbright, then you will have to supply them with an official transcript, which at that point, especially if you're seniors right now, would have that you have been, like, a degree has been conferred to you, right? So for right now, those transcripts transcripts can be unofficial. Anything else?
Affiliation letters, portfolio is only relevant for arts applicants, but
Yeah, if you are an arts applicant, obviously you want to make sure that your portfolio doesn't just open on your computer, but opens on multiple browsers, you know, check with a friend, that type of thing. Letters of affiliation, again, that's all part of those, like, I realize that letters of affiliation are a little bit different because you upload those, which is not the same as your letters of rec for the study research awards. But make sure that those are all uploaded. If they are not in English, you need to have those translated. All of those are things that are on the greater Fulbright website, but we realize it's a lot. So just keep that in mind.
Yeah.
Anything else?
If your country does not have a foreign language requirement, but you do have some proficiency in a foreign language, do complete the language self-evaluation. Don't just leave that blank, especially if you have fluency in another language.
Yeah.
Complete everything.
Yeah.
But yeah, the
there's-
language evaluation, if it is required for your country, also needs to be submitted in 2 weeks.
Yes, yeah. All right, so let's get to the coming weeks, right? So like I mentioned, after the campus deadline comes and goes, you have your interview, everything goes great, but they do have recommendations for you, right? You will have roughly 3 to 4 weeks to finalize your application after those feedback sessions. We recommend that you should aim to resubmit by Friday, or not resubmit, aim to submit by Friday, October 4th. We realize the national deadline is October 8th. But this application has taken up so much of your time and life and energy, right? Just get it done. Because what inevitably happens on October 8th is everyone and their mother is trying to also upload to the Fulbright portal. And there's always something wrong with tech. There's always something wrong with server issues. Don't let yourself be a statistic. Just get it in on that Friday and know that it is done and complete, and you can try to enjoy that weekend going into the next week. Okay. Again, once it's submitted, your application cannot be unsubmitted, even by the Fulbright office. So we really want to make sure that you feel good, done with by that October 4th deadline, or by that October 4th soft deadline. In those 3 to 4 weeks, you will have a chance to meet with your advisor. It's just a matter of making appointments with us. But that might also be time that you want to do, you know, like peer swaps. That's a big time where this happens, just because at this point you're doing some of the final polishing and edits. So it's just nice to get, again, another set of eyes on that. But yeah, there's still time. I don't want people to think, oh, the interview didn't go like I wanted to or whatever, and then just feel defeated. You have been doing this for too long and working on this application with too much of your heart and mind to give up at that point. Okay, we still have 3 to 4 weeks before we got to get to that final deadline.